Round one. Fight.
Heroes never die.
I'm Commander Shepard, and this is my favorite store on the Citadel.
I used to be an adventurer like you. Then I took an arrow in the knee.
Power, sex, power. They both come down to one thing.
Hungry gamers.
Hello, 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 and welcome, boys and girls, to the 270th episode of the Hungry Gamers podcast. We are powered by 8bit.net and those sexy, sexy legends over at audiotechnica.com.au. I'm your extremely humble host, Brendan White. You can find me just about everywhere at Brendan8bit. And joining me today, my podcast ride or die, my the hunter to my titan. You can find her on them socials at Miss Allie Hart. Miss Allie Hart, how the bloody hell are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm hanging in there, Miss Hart. I'm hanging in there, barely, but I'm here. I'm surviving. I'm a bit tired, even though I went to bed. No, I didn't go to bed reasonably. Who am I kidding? I'm a bit tired.
I was about to say, I got a message. If I was awake to receive a message, you did not go to bed at an appropriate hour.
Yeah. I think I fell asleep about 1:30 or so by the end of it. But, it is what it is. But we're here now. Episode 270 of THG, the second episode of THG for 2022. Back in the more regular THG scheduling now. Going to be doing those Sunday, Monday release, depending on where you are in the world. We've got a bit of news to tackle. We'll talk about what we've been doing. My goodness gracious, we've got some big news to talk about today. After talking about even bigger news just last week, it's January was a month to remember, Miss Hart.
It's like they just threw everything out on the court, didn't they? And then the next month is starting and we're just getting more and more and more announcements. It's wild. It's a crazy start to the year.
Yeah, and it doesn't look like it's going to be slowing down anytime soon, but we'll talk about all that and more in the very near future in this episode. But maybe we'll start, as we always do, with what we've been up to this past week or so since we recorded episode 269. Nice. Miss Hart, what have you been doing? Tell me the things.
Not much, unfortunately, no. I've been watching, just catching up on all the series drops that kind of happen throughout the week and just prioritizing that. But in the time of gaming, I've just been in this mood of just, I don't want to think. So I've just been, just hanging out in Minecraft and just, plodding along while listening to Critical Role in the background just to kind of relax and unwind of the day. So Not much new on the horizon in regards to video games.
Yeah, that's fine. Everyone needs a little bit of escapism, a little bit of mindless gaming here and there, and it sounds like you've had a good week of that. I've had a escapism of a different kind in the video game space. So thanks to those legends over at Nintendo, I got tossed a key for Pokemon Legends Arceus, which is the new Switch release. Obviously, it's been out now since around the 28th of January, depending on where you are in the world. So it's been out for about a week. I've rolled credits on the mainline story. I haven't completed the Pokedex yet. That is the overarching goal outside of the main narrative is to complete this Pokedex and help the people of this Sinnoh regions sort of scout and plan and understand Pokemon, because we've gone throwback. We've got a little bit of that not to try and lean too heavily into the anime love that I have. We've got a bit of that isekai vibe where you've had somebody from a certain world get teleported into another world, and that's sort of in essence what it is. Whether you're going to be the male or the female Pokemon trainer in air quotes, you get sucked through this portal, you land up in this new region back before the events of Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. So it's way throwback, and you're sort of, I guess, unearthing and discovering Pokemon for the first time and how they can integrate with society, and can they be trusted, and the bond between human and Pokemon and what that means, and how you can all work together, live a better life. So you're sort of the OG Pokemon trainer, you could say, in this game. There is a story over the top of that regarding the portal that you got ripped through. It's causing roughshod around the region, and need to go and quell mythical Pokemon to calm them down, to prevent any form of additional disaster or troubles in these regions of Sinnoh. But It was fun. It was fine. I enjoyed it. It's good escapism, like you were talking about. Just losing some hours in Minecraft with Critical Role in the background. Like, I was playing this, I had the volume down on my Switch the entire time. I'd have stuff on the television that I'd sort of half watch at the same time, and I'd just run around, fight Pokemon, catch Pokemon, go to the next region, so on and so forth, get a little cutscene, meet some new characters, battle my rival, all the Pokemon tropes that you used to that you've played if you played any of the mainline games. But it's good fun. Like, it's the mainline story. I think it took me about 25 hours to finish.
Okay.
And then on top of that, like, seeing some of the times to complete to get that Pokedex fully chocked up and to catch all these other legendary Pokemons that are now available after you finish that mainline story. It's anywhere from 50 to 100 hours depending on how crazy and specific you want to go with it. So there's a lot more there to sink your teeth into. 265 Pokemon available, and that includes 242 different forms of Pokemon, you could say. There is some hybridization where there's a lot, instead of it just being, typical, like it's a grass Pokemon, it'll be like grass and fighting, or like they're starting to mishmash a lot of the other types together to give you different strategies in battle. But for the most part, it feels like you either got to one-shot the enemy first or they're going to one-shot you first, potentially. Like, it felt like 85% of the battles I was fighting, whatever they'd toss out first would have some type of super effective move that's either going to knock my Pokemon down in one or I've got to shoot them first. It was very like Western Pistols at Dawn sort of thing.
Yeah.
Some of the other Pokemon games where it was a bit more strategic and you might have like a 10-move exchange and you're popping potions or berries to sort of heal. It rarely happened in this. It was like, I hit you or you hit me, and that's going to be the winner of this exchange. Like, it wasn't very strategic at times.
Doesn't that really void the traditional sense of... that's all I've ever known with the Pokemon game, is there's a lot of back and forth.
Yeah, there wasn't much. Like, there was a few battles that I had that were pretty spicy and did a bit of back and forth. But yeah, I'd say easy 85% of the time it was, I'm going to hit you first and you're going down. Or you're going to hit me first, I'm going to have to bring in another Pokemon to then hit you first to take you down. It wasn't very much like, I'll take a little chunk, then you'll take a chunk. It was just, there goes your health bar, or there goes my health bar in one hit.
That's weird.
It was a bit weird.
Not what I would have expected with a Pokemon game.
Yeah, but like some of the changes they've done, like with as far as those RPG elements, like... The cool thing is the world, it feels a lot more lived in by the Pokemon. Like, these Pokemon are cruising around, doing their own thing. You can see them sort of interacting and sitting down and not just being static in high grass or something. It's these various regions, they're distinctive. The Pokemon in those regions are distinctive, and you can choose to battle them or just, navigate your way through if you're just trying to get from point A to point B. So the Pokemon system in that regard is really cool. As far as catching them, you can try and catch them without engaging in battle. You can, just throw a ball if they haven't caught you. Different types of Pokemon balls as you'd expect. Yeah. Or you can battle them traditionally. But the cool thing is your trainer during battle, you can sort of move them around the battlefield a little bit. So to avoid being too close, because some of these moves you could take like splash damage. So your trainer, if you cop a bit of impact through the game, you can get knocked out not even being in battle. Like, if a Pokemon just sees you and hits you with a high level ability, it can knock you down, then you wake up at your base camp and you're gonna rinse and repeat from there. So there's some little subtle changes in that regard, which is pretty cool. I really enjoyed it. The 3 starters, whatever, like you got Rowlet, Cyndaquil and Oshawott. So you've got your owl type, your little fire reptile looking fella with your Cyndaquil, and then Oshawott's like a little otter. Yeah. They're all cute as hell, and you can get them all eventually throughout the gameplay loop. But once I started getting all these other Pokemon, like I had Rowlet as my main to start with, the little owl. He just sat there on the bench gathering dust. The rest of the Pokemon I was grabbing were just my sort of all-stars. So I rarely utilized those OG3 that in a lot of the other games, at least the way I played, I'd always hang on to them. I'd have my Charizard or my Torterra or whatever it is, and they'd be key members of the team. Not in this. They were just hanging out, just living their own life and doing their thing, but that's fine. It's fine. But it's pretty.
You think it's pretty? Like, I obviously don't get too much of a leveled say on anything to do with the game as someone that hasn't played it. My impression only comes from, viewing it from other people. But the game to me looked very basic, very flat in design. There was like a few encounters that like I would watch on either a YouTube video or someone playing it on Twitch, and I was genuinely surprised on just how like bland the character design was. Like I'm trying to like remember like what it was, but to me it just didn't feel like it was textured. Yeah, I guess that's what I was. I guess that's what I was looking for. That's
exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, like the environments, they're not very hot. Like it's not high poly count. It's not high resolution. The environments themselves, they're distinctive, but it sort of focus on these areas, and the ground or the mountainside or the hilltop or the tree, there's not a huge amount of detail. Like the graphical fidelity in this game, it's nowhere near some of the other games we're playing these days on other consoles and platforms. But like just looking at where Pokemon Legends is in comparison to all these other Pokemon games we've played, it's night and day. Like we've been pining for an open world Pokemon RPG game for decades, and now we finally got it, and it hits the right notes for me. Like I really enjoyed it. It sort of scratched that nostalgic itch. It made me feel like I was a kid again, but it just gives me so much more option and flexibility. And the world's pretty comparative to previous Pokemon games, but then comparing it to say a world in God of War or Forza or something, it's the very, 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 very poor cousin in comparison in that regard, just because of the grunt. Like I'm using the OG day one Switch still, and outside of the battery on my Switch seemingly on its last legs because it doesn't last any more than like 2 hours, not docked or charged at the moment. I've seen a lot of people sharing stills and gameplay clips of the OLED Switch comparative to the original, and the contrast in that alone, like I'm like, damn, that would make me want to buy an OLED. Just because the graphics, it looks so better. The textures are so much crisper. Wow. The colors are more vibrant. The character models are a little bit more detailed. So it was kind of sad that I'm running it on this last gen, for all intents and purposes, Switch, where I'm getting a good experience still, but not the best out of the box.
Yeah, and that's kind of sucky to know that we're kind of going to, I guess this is going to be the start of it, where we are going to actually notice a difference between games from OG Switch to new. Mm-hmm.
And it's noticeable.
If it's that noticeable, then we're definitely going to witness it again and again with more titles coming out. Are we going to see it with the new Zelda game, whenever the fuck that's coming? Are we going to have like a massive contrast there? Like, I understand that with a console, like you have to eventually update things, and one of the major things is just to make things look better. But if other people are going to start getting a better experience,
it made me think for a split second I need to upgrade my Switch. But then I'm like, I'm probably not going to play my Switch again until the next big game comes out. So I don't know. If I feel like wasting a bit of money and getting a prettier picture, if maybe I do try and go clean out that Pokedex, maybe I'll upgrade. But I've really enjoyed it. Like 84 on Metacritic, so clearly the critics and the games media and games press enjoy the game. A lot of positive spin in the majority of reviews out there. There is some that say it is a little bit hollow at times, and it can feel that in certain instances of the game, but running around as a member of the Survey Corps and scouting Pokemon for the first time and seeing these characters you meet along the way, their excitement or their trepidation because either, Pokemon is the new big thing, or they're terrified because they've, destroyed their township or whatever. It's kind of cool to sort of see these origins as to where the game is today, but playing it, years and years and years back. So it's kind of cool to be on the ground floor of Pokemon discovery in this little world. And it was just good fun. Just easy to play. You don't have to give it your complete attention, but you can still get a full experience. Okay. The battling is simple, so whether you're young, old, experienced in this world, or new to Pokemon, you'll pick it up pretty easily. the soundtrack in those few moments where I did turn the volume up just to sort of see what was going on, to see if maybe we'd actually get some voice lines. We don't, obviously. No voice lines. The Pokemon, you're still getting those like MIDI Pokemon sounds when they make noise and interact, which is annoyance for another day. But overall, I enjoyed it. I had fun. If I've got nothing to do over the coming months, I might just jump in and spend a few hours here or there cleaning up that Pokedex, hunting legendaries, doing the evolutions to get certain Pokemon you can only get with certain items or certain caveats you need to meet. But yeah, it's fine. I'd put this as an 8-bit approved game. I really enjoyed my time, and yeah, like that 84 out of 100, I'd probably give it around an 80 if we're going on the Metacritic metric. I think it's fun. I enjoyed it. 25 hours, regret none of that. Check it out if you're a Pokemon fan.
Yeah, it's a very curious case because, like, I know a good majority of people did enjoy it, but then I have also witnessed a lot of people who have received a copy or who bought a copy and said, you know what, I played an hour of it and just put it down and never picked it up. So,
I will say on that front, the opening, like what do you call it? Like the training. What do you call
tutorial stage?
The tutorial, that's the word. I'm completely blanking. I'm a mess today. Yeah, the tutorial is very long-winded. It's tough sledding to get through that first hour-ish.
Hour?
Yeah.
Of tutorial?
Yeah, but because there is a lot of, like, cutscenes in there, so it does stretch. It's not that you're just doing, press A to do this. But it is a very long-winded tutorial. So once you're out of that tutorial and out into the wild, the game really opens up. But it was at times where I was playing this and watching stuff on the TV at the same time, like, fuck, this needs to hurry up and finish. I just want to play the game. So I get why you're saying people are like, yeah, it's not for me.
Okay, that does answer that question then. Because usually tutorials, some can feel a little bit long, but, a little bit tedious to do. But, like, if a tutorial feels like it goes over an hour, then I understand it then, yeah. It
was a long time, Miss Hart. It was a long time. But once I was free of that dreaded tutorial, the game was great. Outside of that, outside of the usual shows we've been sort of gushing over the last few weeks, something else that I've binged through went a bit weeby again this week. So I finally went back and been working my way through an anime called Date Alive. And it's a weird ass concept, Miss Hart. So stay with me.
Really? The anime has a weird concept?
So we're in this this continent or alternate world called Eurasia, and what happens is there's these strange phenomenon called spatial quakes, and what that means is like there's spirits from another universe that come through, and it just happens always the spirit is like this attractive anime girl, and they come to this world, and these spatial quakes. It's like a natural disaster. So millions of people are dying from these spatial quakes. So what happens is there's this group of people that either fight them and kill them, or they've found out there's this one particular character who's sort of the lead, and he's got this ability, Shido is his name, where if he can get these spirits to fall in love with him, he can kiss them and then take all the bad power away from them, and then they can just live a normal life and not create these spatial quakes. So I'm watching this weird ass anime, 3 seasons. It's cheesy, horrible goodness, but like it's been my background anime this week as I've been playing Pokemon. It's a thing. It's a beautiful mess of a thing.
Like, I feel like now it's getting to this stage where you are just going to have to level up like each time this shock on my face or the reaction on my face and you telling me the storylines of these anime. I'm not judging anime. I used to be a massive like anime fan way back when. But like the fact that you're like it's a different place where there's earthquakes. I'm like, yep, cool, that makes sense. And then, the spirits come from another universe. I'm like, yeah, I'm still on board. They so apparently are attractive women, attractive anime girls. I'm like, oh, here we go. Now, tons of people die. I'm like, well, all right. And then the only way to save them is one guy, and he has to make them fall in love. And I'm like, here we go. This is...
It's dumb, but it's been good background television. Like, when I've been Pokemoning or, having something back on the background while I've been working or whatever, this is this has been good in that regard. Like, the story is absolutely rubbish. There is some heart to it where, like, there is, like, some cutesy romance and some of the spirits, in air quotes, that Shido saves over the course of these 3 seasons. You know, they become friends, or some of them, you know, want to, you know, be in a relationship with this fellow. And so there's all those sort of awkward dating scenarios that play out, because obviously they're not from this world, so they're trying to then work out how this world works and what a date is, and introducing them to foods and experiences and stuff. So there is some heart to the show, to the anime. But
a bunch of people die from the earthquake.
Yeah, like, so because, yeah, they manifest into the real world, these quakes occur, so they've got a very specific time where they find this spirit, they've got to make them fall in love within a time period, otherwise the spatial quake occurs, and yeah, millions could die. So it's like, there's some high
But let's
stakes
get to
there.
that dating montage.
Yeah, and
Oh my
it's
goodness.
this weird juxtaposition in that regard. Yeah, I know, like, it sounds shit. Is it shit? Maybe a little bit, but it's been a good sort of screen-based distraction as I do other things. And yeah, like the first spirit that he saves, he names her Toka, and she's like, she's a very cute character, and yeah, new to this world, and like, her big thing is, you know, she loves food, so seeing her get excited about going on dates or trying all these new things. So there's a bit of heart to the show, but it is dumb shit. But there's some heart there, there's some comedy there, some romance, all the things I like blended into one, with some dumb shit sprinkled on top.
Like, I know there's dumber animes out there. Like, I know they exist, but there's just some of these concepts, like, and not to mention you trying to sell me on something. Like, I know you're not purposely trying to make me watch it, but like, it's almost like you kind of got a spotlight on you right now, and it's like, tell us why this is good.
Yeah, it's a tough sell, like, especially just looking at the premise, like, it just sounds dumb. Like, as you said, like, a lot of anime have the most crazy themes and stories. And you sit there and wonder, like, when this, like, the original writers of these things, where they come up with these ideas and think, this is a great idea, but then somehow they sell either 1 million copies of the manga or the light novel or whatever it started in to begin with, and then it gets turned into anime and movies and all this stuff. You sit there and go, this shouldn't work, yet here we are, 3 seasons, couple of movies. It's absolutely bananas, but it's just easy watching.
It's just anime.
It's just anime. But if you like your rom-coms with a bit of science fiction and some harem elements, check out Date Alive. And death. And death. Lots of death. Well, lots of death to start with, and then obviously you're preventing all of these casualties moving on from there. But starts with a lot of death, yeah. Because these are
like most
spatial quakes.
Do.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's the heart and the cuteness. But yeah, it's a thing. But yeah, that's all I've been doing. What a time to be alive, Miss Hart.
What a time to be alive.
The content that is available at our fingertips these days, it knows no bounds. All right, quick bit of housekeeping. Obviously, if you want to support us, do so over at ko-fi.com/we-are-8bit. Full disclosure, listeners, we are going to be parking the fan house idea that I've spruiked for a week. That is done and dusted for now. There's just some dramas on the App Store that's just creating too many issues and too many headaches. So if you wanted to look after us with a couple of dollars in our kitty, ko-fi.com/we-are-8bit. We're retooling that page at the moment as well, just to try and add a little bit more value and sort of streamline for the things you guys want and or potentially need. So yeah, jump on, follow us over there. If you wanted to also get some tasty new merchandise, shop8bit.net for the best in gaming /geek /pop culture related hotness over there. Plenty of designs, plenty of styles. Shop8bit.net, and be sure to obviously rate, resubscribe this podcast and all the other podcasts you listen to on the regular on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Spotify does have a 5-star rating system now, so be sure to give us those tasty 5 stars if you can. It's going to take you no time, cost you no money, mean an awful lot to us and all the other podcasts you're doing it to, because yeah, it's going to keep us tracking, keep us relevant, help keep those emotional lights on in our hearts. But Miss Hart, what do you say? Do you think we jump into some news?
Let's do it.
This week's news headlines.
All right, a couple of quick hitters to start things off. Supermassive Games, obviously developer of Until Dawn and the ongoing Dark Pictures anthology series, has trademarked logos and titles for 5 future Dark Pictures entries. Upcoming titles include The Craven Man, O Death, Directive 8020, Intercession, and Winterfold. Supermassive has said in the past that it plans for at least 8 entries in the horror anthology. 3 have been released so far, with the 4th, The Devil in Me, likely due this autumn. Busy. So we're going to get at least 9 entries in the Dark Pictures anthology series. Awesome. I'm excited, especially after House of Ashes being the strongest entry into Dark Pictures so far, at least for me. I really enjoyed it. You enjoyed it, Miss Hart?
I enjoyed it, but to be fair, I didn't play the others.
Little Hope and Man of Medan.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, this is positive. Like, the fact that the fact that they've already got like a pathway of these future releases and stuff. Like, I'm curious if they intend to improve maybe their graphic quality in that time. I think we did mention when we kind of like reviewed it on the previous podcast ages ago, how we felt that maybe the animatics and all that sort of stuff might be kind of recycled, which is common in gaming, and nothing to be frowned at. But like when you have a directive of like, hey, we're going to be making so many games in the future, are you in that time going to be elevating it in any kind of way? Which is just my curiosity. I don't think it will tarnish the overall experience that Supermassive is known for those like quick time events and reactive kind of story, pick your adventure kind of timelines. But yeah, we're just very curious, especially when you have so many planned.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, I think from what I can remember with the announcement initially with Dark Pictures is they plan to have these games running up until potentially 2025. I think I saw somewhere out in the wilderness, and when we're looking at 5 more on the way plus 1 more here, that timeline sort of adds up. So you'd think
Kinda, yeah.
With the bumps in technical power and computing and things like that we will see some enhancements and bumps in graphical quality or the animation. Like, yeah, for the most part, the mocap work they do is great, but there is just a few things where, you know, the mouths don't always work the right way when they're talking, or the teeth
got, like,
look a little
dead
bit too
stare sometimes, like no emotion. But yeah.
So hopefully in time, and because they've, I guess, planned this out to a high degree, you'd think, where they're like, okay, this game's going to be dropping here, then we've got another year to do this, so on and so forth. Maybe with that, we will see a little bit more emoting in the faces and a little less wooden responding to some of those big dramatic situations that play out in these games. But yeah, they're the kings and queens of the horror choose your own adventure, that's for sure. And The Devil in Me looks like it could be, you know, the jewel of the crown so far. Like, it's very Saw-esque as far as the trailer. We're leaning into the minds of serial killers and things. So this next one, departing from the spiritualness of the other ones and sort of that sort of ilk that they've done with the previous entries, and just going more straight horror thriller with some serial killer vibe, I think that could be really heckin' cool.
That could be really, really cool, and definitely something I would be interested in. So I've got my fingers crossed for that one.
Yeah, I'm hopeful. And on the horror discussion, we'll continue
hopeful
here. Tango Gameworks, sorry. They've dropped a 20-minute gameplay showcase this past week. This actually was very surprising to me because it was leaked a couple of days before it was happening, and then it was announced the day prior. And yeah, we got a 20-minute showcase, and on the back of this also, they've confirmed that this game comes out next month. So March 25th, we're going to be able to be playing Ghostwire Tokyo, which is a game that has been on my radar for a few years. Obviously, it was delayed and delayed and delayed.
Yeah.
But I'm keen as a bean to see how this game plays. It looked very, very eerie. Like, we got a 10-minute sort of gameplay slice amongst, you know, director commentary and various dev heads talking about how the game works. But looks very eerie. Characters looking very distorted. Some very Evil Within vibes with some of the enemy models. And I'm excited. Obviously, this is a PS5 and PC exclusive, even though Tango now fall under the Microsoft banner. This was a prior agreement with PlayStation, so it's falling directly under there. But I'm very, very excited to play this. We don't have to wait long at all.
No, that was the other surprising thing. Like, I think when these games kind of start getting pushed back, like we get that initial announcement where we kind of get a bit excited, a bit intrigued of these titles, but then with all this pushback, I think, like we've mentioned in the past, like that excitement, hype level kind of dies down, and you kind of stop keeping track of these awesome games that you once were looking forward to. So I was kind of shocked to see that it was coming out very soon. Overall impressions of the game, there's things that I like, and then there's things that I'm just not sold on yet. There's some great character design for the enemies, like how they look and how kind of scary they appear, and then there's other things in it where I'm like, this isn't scary at all. Like, what is this? So I'm kind of in the middle with this one. I hope it does well. It has taken some time, and then they've obviously had some people leave the studio within that time. But yeah, like, I don't know. I'm always for new concepts, and for this it looks newish. The whole idea of a horror game. But,
yeah, I'm with you. Like the tone, they need to nail the tone of this game.
Yeah, I think that
as
might
you
be
said,
it.
some of these monsters or these supernatural creatures, some of them look like nightmare fuel, and then other ones it's very like cutesy, whimsical, funny parody sort of stuff.
Fantasy, yeah.
And from what I can gather from sort of looking around and reading some articles about this, sort of breaking it down a little bit more, apparently a lot of these beasties or these supernatural creatures, they're like retakes or spins on creatures from Japanese folklore. So apparently there's
like yokais?
Yeah, and like just some of the specific ones that they're showcasing there. So if that's the case, then that's kind of cool that they're sort of pulling from history or myths and whatnot, whatever you want to describe it as. And it looks interesting, but yeah, the tone looks a little bonkers. I'm always down for bonkers, as far as you're this spirit possessed protagonist trying to work out why this pseudo Japan, all the population has disappeared, and you've got to go through and obviously fight all these supernatural creatures and get to the heart of the problem and cut out the root of the evil and all that kind of stuff, as it would be as far as horrific based tropes go. But I'm interested, and we don't have to wait too long to see if it's actually going to be any good.
Yeah, it should be interesting to see how well this one's received. There's a lot of times in this trailer, and I don't know why seems to be my constant pet peeve now for some reason, where I question the graphics of it. Is that what it is? Like sometimes it feels dated. Like there was moments in the trailer where I felt like I was watching an old game, and then there was other times where I'm like, oh, that's really impressive. Like I guess I wasn't sure when I was seeing true gameplay and maybe things that were being elevated a little bit more beyond what they were actually going to be, like what a gamer was going to experience. So I think I'm not seeing that consistency there too. So it always makes me skeptical. Yeah,
it was it did feel a little bit last gen with some of the scenes they cut into that 10-minute gameplay slice, and then other parts, especially where they were doing like the first person combat, and you weaving spells and you're watching the hands do all these crazy movements and pop abilities. Then just it was color splashes and crazy animations. Like that looked very current in PlayStation 5 or high spec PC. And then there's other parts where I'm like, is that guy did he just roll out of a PS3 cutscene just now? But we'll see. We'll see what Tango have put together, and we'll be able to report back in 7 weeks time. Exciting. Very exciting. And another big old state of play slice from Sony. It's been Sony week this week. They've been they haven't been resting on their laurels, that's for damn sure. So outside of the Tango Games Works Ghostwire Tokyo showcase, they've also done a state of play on Gran Turismo 7, which is obviously coming out next month as well. March is a bumper month for games, as is February, as we've already alluded to. But this was their first official state of play, all about GT7. And if you're even mildly excited about Polyphony Digital's upcoming sim racer, this showcase is indeed a must-watch. Not only did it showcase some of the bleeding-edge graphics the Gran Turismo series is known for, but it also reveals that GT7 is much more than just a racing game. So they showcase the world map, music modes, car museums, some of the cars specifically, and then just, as is tradition with these next-gen racing sims, they're stunning. They're just about the best-looking games
Oh,
you'll
it was
see
gorgeous, yeah.
on any platform. Like, racing games, they just know how to make pretty graphical hotness. And the car models, the way the light bounces off the curves of a car, you know, the certain weather effects, everything like that. Like, car games are sexy.
I mean, yeah, well, as only a very recent enjoyer of car games, seeing this event and then seeing that it was strictly Gran Turismo focused, I'm like, it did unfortunately lose my attention. Didn't
get your motor running?
Didn't get my motor running, no. But just seeing the graphical, the graphics was like just incredible, like the details in the cars and everything. But then seeing when they went into like almost like the weather patterns, like they were showing that, you know, if you were racing and then it had rained and then that the road was wet, it would show you that throughout the race that it would dry to a certain way, and like just how technical I could only imagine the amount of detail and technical bullshit in the background that was required to make that feel so authentic. And then they talked about that the sky and the stars and everything and the accuracy of the sun and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, wow, like I didn't know that these kind of details were so important to a racing game. And I totally understand that this game isn't made for me. It isn't. It's made for the racing diehards, and they deserve to have all the things that they want and need to make a game great as well. But I was truly just surprised at what like the team thought was important and what was worth focusing on and what was worth adding to this game to just like bring it to the next level. But in order to sell it to someone like me, didn't work. I don't think they're gonna cry over that. But I'm impressed, but it wasn't for me.
Yeah, like it'll move units. Like, it's been a stalwart of the Sony catalog for decades now, going back way to GT on the PlayStation and things like that. But yeah, it looks stunning, and as you said, you nailed it as far as the racing purists, those ones that do care about those slight angles and getting the maximum amount of G-force as they turn a corner to speed, you know, all those racing things that are important. This title will, I think, certainly satisfy and make them all very happy. And the fact that it's done with such a stunning aesthetic, the soundtrack, the sheer amount of cars available to race on these tracks with,
and
so you can
good.
get a whole different flavor depending on your preference and your racing style. No doubt that's going to follow with, as is always with these games, you'll have certain licenses you have to get that can then unlock certain cars that you can race in certain cups and tournaments and what have you. So you'll get a very unique experience depending on the car you're driving in, but it looks stunning and it looks like a worthy competitor to the Forza series that's obviously happening over on Team Green. Excuse me, but it's nice to see Gran Turismo still getting people excited and you know, starting people's engines.
Yeah, well, I hope they get the same amount of kind of success. Obviously, Forza Horizon 5 is kind of a different playing field, so, you know, they might not receive the same kind of hype. I don't know, actually. I didn't guess that I was going to be playing Forza and enjoying it, so what would I know? But, yeah, like, based on all the detail that Gran Turismo 7 has in it, like, I hope they pick up some new fans, because it looks good, and they've obviously put the work in.
I think so. Like, this game was the original racing benchmark, really. It was called the Ultimate Driving Simulator, I think was the byline on the box back in the day when it came out on the, you know, the prior gen PlayStations. And I remember playing it and adoring it, but then I also played Colin McRae Rally at the same time and preferred that because it actually had vehicle damage and crazy things.
Need for speed.
Ooh, yeah. Bit of hot pursuit, racing around in the Fords and the Holden cop cars.
Yeah.
But it looks good, and yeah, it's out next month as well, so a couple of nice console exclusives for Sony, but something else that could potentially become an exclusive for Sony, and just after we came down from the huge news of Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard King, another big acquisition makes January a month to remember. So just a few short weeks after Xbox's industry-shaking announcement, Sony has announced its decision to purchase Destiny developer Bungie for $3.6 billion, with $1.2 billion of that to be used and spread across several years for employee retention, which I think is fantastic, and we can jump into that a bit later if you like. But I've grabbed some quotes and sort of spliced some wording together from multiple reports, because there is many people looking at this through a long lens, and there's wording everywhere if you wanted to get into the nitty gritty and read almost manifestos as far as thought processes on this. But here's some wording that I've grabbed. And the first part is a quote, and it reads, "This is an important step in our strategy to expand the reach of PlayStation to a much wider audience. We understand how vital Bungie's community is to the studio and look forward to supporting them as they remain independent and continue to grow. Like Bungie, our community is core to PlayStation's DNA, and our shared passion for the gamer and building the best place to play will now evolve even further. We've had a strong partnership with Bungie since the inception of the Destiny franchise, and I couldn't be more thrilled to officially welcome the studio to the PlayStation family." That was Sony boss Jim Ryan there. And in this past week's earnings call Q&A, Sony executive Hiroki Totoki was asked what benefits Bungie receive from Sony. The answer: multi-dimensional support. Bungie want to nurture the IP they have in a multi-dimensional manner, and that's their hope. For that, we believe we can help that. We have Sony Pictures and Sony Music, and Bungie can leverage our platform so that their IP can flourish and grow big. End quote. And then furthermore, he also says, it's not just for the gaming area, but the multi-using of IP and merchandising of said IP, like a game title may be put into movies, said Totoki. But beyond multimedia ambitions, PlayStation clearly provides Bungie with stability and financial backing to help live up to all its ambitions. As Bungie has noted, in quotes, the most immediate change you'll see is an acceleration in hiring talent across the entire studio to support our ambitious vision. End quote. So obviously that weaves into that $1.2 billion aside for hiring and retention. But also, the growth began last year for Bungie, when Bungie began hiring for a new senior executive to drive Destiny into categories like TV, films, books, and comics. So Sony will be obviously helping on the TV and film side. Books and comics, they're already starting to embed and find their way through. Mm-hmm. But Miss Hart, you are the Destiny and Bungie purist amongst the people I know. Like, Bungie for me goes way back to Halo, being the pioneer of the FPS for the Xbox way back when. But Destiny, this decade-long juggernaut now that has got no signs of slowing down, is the main catalyst for this purchase. $3.6 billion US, which is a huge amount of cashish for a studio that only really has one active IP right now. They've got one in development that they're planning to release in the coming years. But what do you think about this? As a Destiny fan and as a Bungie fan, is this a good move for them ultimately?
It's been a emotional roller coaster on how to feel about this. There's like a lot of things that I have been like kind of like working through my head when I first saw this announcement. I panicked. I honestly panicked because they did the announcement, they said that everything was happening, and they started quickly throwing out all the what the answers to all the questions that they were going to get. And the main thing that they were trying to point across is saying like, no, this will still be across platforms, which is what I guess everyone thought. They're like, oh shit, Destiny is going to be PlayStation exclusive from now on. But I definitely don't think Bungie would have signed up for that. I think they know how important it is to keep their game on all platforms. So that kind of obviously kind of settled me down. There is some weird wording out there that makes me a little bit skeptical. Like one of the major ones was when they decided to word that Destiny 2 will still be multi-platform. And then later in other stuff, they just referred to it as Destiny or Bungie title. But that one in particular was specified as Destiny 2. So I'm a bit nervous about that, but whatever. The other thing is this discussion about going into movies and TV series. And like, there's a lot of great story in Destiny. There's story there if you want to find it. There's, you know, they don't force feed it to you, and there's some great stories. There's some fun stories. There's some wonderful characters. But then the idea of seeing it possibly like adapted into movie, I think everyone was talking about movies, a Destiny movie. It has me concerned.
It really needs to be TV, doesn't it? Like,
I don't
think
know.
That world's too big to try and tell it succinctly in 90 to 120 minutes.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's more of the fact that are they going to do live action, or are they going to animate it? Because like everyone's like kind of writing to Lance, who does the voice of Zavala, like saying like, oh, look, you know, you have to get Zavala. And I agree. He is the voice. He is the voice of Destiny, really. But like, he doesn't look like Zavala. And then I'm like, I want him to be Zavala. This is like such a nerdy kind of like thing for anyone that's not even into Destiny. So it's like, you want to hear your favorite character, but you also want to see them at the same time. And yeah, I don't know. Like, the other thing that they could do, because they can actually explore all the lore that hasn't been established in the games. Maybe they'll go down that route, so that way they can't disappoint fans too much. Maybe that's probably what they'll do. I don't know. This is such a precious franchise to me, and I've had a lot of franchises that I adore and love absolutely get destroyed. Hello, DC fan. So, you know, like, this is a very delicate stepping stone for me. So I only ever want good, and I only ever want good things to happen. Speaking of good things to happen, shout out to Bungie for being bought for that massive amount of you know, like in the billions. When they were purchased by Activision, I believe they were only purchased by for like 40 to 50 million.
So to see what the growth that they've generated themselves off their own back, doing it independently for the most part since they broke away from that horrific Activision relationship.
Like you pointed out, you know, to be worth that much, really only having, you know, one thing, like being known for one thing is a credit to the team, like everyone that's worked on Destiny and everything that they've kind of built up and, you know, added value, obviously. So I like that there's obviously Bungie were able and strong enough to come up to Sony, and when Sony said how much, they said this much, but this also matters. And it looks like that they have met, like Sony has met with Bungie, and they've come to an agreement, so Bungie still gets to do what they want to do. Because I definitely think when they were over with Activision that they things went to shit a bit.
Yeah, they certainly got put in a box at Activision, and you can see in the respective press releases that Bungie and Sony have dropped, it's very much, we're Bungie, we're still independent, we can do what we like, we can make the things we want, but now we've got Sony helping. It's not Sony forcing us to do this or lock into a certain game or a certain market strategy. It feels like they've got full autonomy, at least the way it reads. And obviously,
that's the way it reads, yeah. Yeah,
and you want those press releases to read as positive as possible. You know, we'll see what happens over the coming half a decade to see what's fact and fiction.
Exactly.
But the fact that they're saying that they've got 1.2 billion of this of 3.6 aside for hiring and retaining staff, like they've broken that down to, I think there's 900 staff or so, give or take, at Bungie currently, and they broke it down to that would equate to nearly $1 million per staff. Obviously, that's going to change based off studio heads and hierarchy and things like that. But to have such a forward focus and think about keeping all the good people employed, because you see a lot of the times these acquisitions happen and then the good people jump ship or they go somewhere else because they don't want to be tied to whatever their new overlord could be.
True.
So it's kind of cool that they're saying, no, we're here to stay. We're still Bungie. We can still control our own destiny, but we've got Sony in the background. Yeah, pun potentially intended. That's going to help us out and elevate this franchise and maybe get us a show on Amazon and Netflix, whatever. You know, ultimately we're going to see Destiny on the small and the big screen, whether it be via film or TV. I like the idea of an animated option too. That could work, I think.
Yeah, it could. It's definitely a possibility. But yeah, like it's I like the idea of also that now that they have this like backing from Sony, that they might be able to achieve more. They might be able to do more. They might be able to work a bit comfortably, you know, because they've got the funding and they've got the backing and they've got that kind of like strong support behind them now. So
yeah, it'd feel good to the people in Bungie knowing their futures are sorted.
Yeah.
You know, they don't have to stress, their futures are sorted. They can shape this as yet unannounced game that they're working on. And no doubt, yeah, as you said with that wording, Destiny 2 will remain cross-platform, but Destiny 3, when it eventually comes out, will that be a Sony exclusive or Sony and PC only exclusive? Yeah. Maybe. You can't fault Sony for doing that. Microsoft is doing that with a lot of IP they're picking up now because ultimately they want to make their hub the ecosystem that people think of for games and certain IP. So I'm not going to be mad if in a few years' time they say Destiny 3 is PC and PlayStation. I'll migrate to whichever. As long as they say it's PC. if they take my Destiny away from my PC, I'm going to be very mad. What they probably will make exclusive is whatever this IP was that Bungie was already working on. Yeah. This other shooter, I think it was like a first-person shooter or something that was already in the works or being established. I'm sure that was definitely placed on the table for exclusivity. Exactly. I think whatever that title is when it gets officially announced and showcased, yeah, that'll be a PlayStation only thing. Maybe some PC too, but the other part of this from the Sony side and what they can get from the Bungie angle is obviously helping them implement live games as a service, because obviously Bungie and Destiny 2 is one of the largest live games currently available. They've got a healthy player base. They know how to bring out content in a good regular cycle. They know how to support that community. Obviously, in the early stages, yeah, there was teething problems, but they've really ironed all that out now, and they're just sort of firing on all cylinders because there's rumors around that Sony by 2025 want to release 10 live games or games as a service to the marketplace. So having someone like Bungie that know how to do it and do it really freaking well, it makes sense to have them say, okay, what advice can you give us here? What would you recommend we do? What do we need to implement from a network perspective, from a hardware perspective, so on and so forth. So there's some synergies on both sides here. Yeah. Oh, well, like it's scary, it's exciting, it's nerve-wracking, and only time will tell what it actually truly means. Exactly. And like, I had a bit of a chuckle seeing a lot of the gaming social media discourse where they felt like this was an immediate reaction to Microsoft buying Activision. It was like they felt like Sony just called up Bungie the day that news broke and said, "What's it going to cost? Let's do it." Like these purchases have been in the works for months. Yeah. And months. Like they've been at the boardroom level talking details and trying to hash out these agreements. It's just the timing of it just lined up that it followed on a week or so after the big Microsoft acquisition. And following on from that, like people in Sony have said we're in talks with multiple developers out there to potentially acquire them and bring them under the Sony banner. So I'm going to ask you this question, Ms. Hart. What studio do you believe is going to be the next to be acquired by Sony? Who's left? No, I've seen some people throw theories around. There's a lot of prominent Nintendo IP that people seem to think that Sony will acquire, but Nintendo's really strong at keeping all their cards close to their chest, so I don't think it will even be a glimmer in the eye of Sony to even approach these studios. I think the next biggest play that Sony could do is they might not be able to buy the studio, but they might try to buy the rights to like Metal Gear. Yeah. It just makes sense, doesn't it? It does. It really does. Like it's doing nothing. It's sitting around doing nothing as far as we're aware. So if you're gonna start swinging big old money dick around, yeah. Sorry for the visual, guys. I was trying to stay away from it, but it came out no matter what. Big old money dick. Big old money dick. Buy the IP that you know that a good chunk of your player base loves, wants,
And, you know, like, if you own it, if it's yours, then you can let anyone do what they will with it as well. So, I don't know, like, that seems like a smart, big purchase that they could do that could definitely put them another foot ahead.
Yeah, I like that. Like, Konami, they've got some great IP. Like, yeah, if they could buy just that gaming arm or just a handful of IP from Konami, like if they could grab Castlevania, they could grab Silent Hill, and they could grab Metal Gear from Konami, because Konami, they make all their money in the gambling space with their pachinko machines and their poker machines and things like that. Gaming isn't a massive priority to them, as evidenced by the fact that these franchises are doing shit all at the moment.
Yeah,
so it would be a big old money dick swing, if we wanted to keep with that description, from Sony's behalf. And because, yeah, like, even though the Metal Gear games and things like that are on Xbox these days and PC, I still, when I think of Metal Gear, I still think of playing the original Metal Gear Solid on PlayStation. Obviously, we got the OOG games back on the NES way back when, but when we're talking that first tactical espionage action game from the back end of the 90s, I think of my original PlayStation. So it would make sense to keep them back under that, or get them back under that umbrella, and fans would be very happy. So I could see that move happening. I could see them then also buying Kojima Productions, because obviously Hideo and Sony have had a long standing relationship.
Do you think they would I hate
tolerate
saying it like this.
his philanthropy?
Yes, that's pretty much where I was going with it, is when you know, he's does great things, and he's, quite the mastermind in creating games and such. But yeah, like, he lost his position in Konami because of he overspends, he takes too long and everything like that. Like, that is a serious investment.
Yeah, I think on the Hideo piece, I could see them wanting to sort of etch out a deal on the back of that line we mentioned on the Bungie Sony thing, that multi-dimensional support. Like, we've heard Hideo wants to make movies and things like that for a while. So
he's already made his studio, didn't he? Yeah,
why not buy Kojima Productions and then say, okay, we can make more Death Strandings or more art house games that you want to make, and then you can make your art house unique cinema experiences too.
Oh my God, imagine if they bought it or they did something and we could actually get PT. Yeah,
they buy those Kojima. I mean, they buy Kojima Productions, they buy those Konami IP, and we get it. Like, obviously, we've got the Silent Hill game coming out by Bloober Team in the near future, but there's no guarantee it's going to hit the same way as that playable teaser back in the day. But I could see that happening. I could see them making a play for like Square Enix as a bit of a big move, and having like the Final Fantasy titles and things like that under the Sony banner. Capcom could be another one. Imagine if they owned Capcom and had like Street Fighter, Devil May Cry, Resident Evil, Dino Crisis if it ever comes out again. So there's some options. There's some options.
It's the Street Fighter one. That's a big one. That's a big one.
Well, Street Fighter 4, when it first came out, was a PlayStation exclusive. Didn't come out on Xbox.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's just
so
like,
there's some options there.
Yeah, especially with these competitive scene titles. It's always like, if a studio buys it, and then, I don't know.
Yeah. And they're a good sized fish. Then obviously you've got your EAs, your Ubisofts, your Rockstars, things like that as well. But we'll see. What do you think what's the over or under as far as new studio acquisitions you think Sony are going to acquire in 2022? Do you think they're going to, I'm going to say over 2 more. They're going to acquire at least 2 more studios in 2022.
You know what? I think that's fair. Like, not inclusive of Bungie. We're going to say 2 more on top.
Yep. So 3 for the year.
3 for the
year. At a
year.
minimum.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess that makes sense. Like, they could like sneak around and get some small studios and such, if that's included.
Crazy times.
It's weird. And then it's also like, now we're at this stage where we can't even keep tabs, like even the smaller studios and teams, where you're like, oh, are they free? No, they fall under this one, which now falls under this one, which actually is connected to Microsoft. It was like, oh shit.
But yeah, crazy news. I think it's a smart fit. Like they're going to go together hand in glove, Bungie and Sony. As an Xbox fanboy that's really enjoying playing Destiny 2 on my Xbox, that's great. But in the future, if it goes somewhere else, it's going to be shitty, but I'll make do. It's not my money. Like at the end of the day, I got no control in this. So I'm not going to be like, you know what? Fuck you, Destiny, or fuck you, Bungie. You're dead to me now. Like, if I enjoy the game, I'm going to keep playing it. Wherever it is. I'll play it on whatever platform I'm told to.
Yeah. Just don't take it off PC.
Yeah, I don't think it's... I think especially seeing, like, you know, God of War jumping on there and having a bit of a resurgence in Horizon, and I think it's going to be more, Sony and PC walking together hand in hand, albeit maybe delayed releases, but we'll see more of that. Just less Xbox stuff because, Team Blue versus Team Green, it's a thing. All right, let's jump into this.
New releases and events.
All right, as far as things to keep your eyes and ears across this coming week between episode 270 and episode 271, from a TV or streamer perspective, we've got the season finale, Book of Boba Fett. So we've got episode 7 making its way to Disney Plus this coming Wednesday. We've also got episode 7 of Peacemaker season 1 making its way to binge here in AU or HBO Max over there. I don't know what you watch it on. Yep.
HBO Max.
I've also got the 3rd episode of Raised by Wolves. So the 2nd season of Raised by Wolves just dropped yesterday. First 2 episodes dropped in one hit, and more of that sort of sci-fi Ridley Scott spacey goodness. Really enjoyed it as far as they've picked up directly where they've left off from season 1. Really cool world building, cool characters, cool concepts. I'm digging it. I binged both those episodes last night, and 3rd episode drops this coming week. As far as movies hitting the cinema, we've got the sequel to the Aussie B-grade zombie hit, which I really enjoyed, Wormwood. So Wormwood Apocalypse comes out. So picture Mad Max meets zombie apocalypse, and you get Wormwood Apocalypse. Okay. It comes to the cinema. We've also got Death on the Nile.
Ooh,
the whodunit film. Yeah, Poirot. And that fantastic mustache.
Glorious cast.
It's a fantastic cast, isn't it? So, that's got my attention. Anything with Gal Gadot in it, I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll give it a look. And I love a whodunit. So maybe I'll go peek that this week. As far as games coming out, we've got the 3rd and final DLC for Far Cry 6 called Joseph Collapse coming out this week. Also got Oli Oli World, Sifu, Action Arcade Wrestling, Backbone, Crossfire X, Edge of Eternity, Cardboard Kings, Kingdom Hearts 2.8 Final Chapter, Kingdom Hearts HD 1.5 and 2.5 Remix, Kingdom Hearts 3, and they're all dropping on the Switch. Obviously, they've been out on PlayStation for quite a while. And Lost Ark coming out this week on the PC. So plenty of things to play, plenty of things to watch, plenty of things to do. Sifu is the one that stands out for me. I cannot wait to play a bit of that martial arts style madness that we've been sort of getting drip fed over the past 18 months.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's had a bit of a little tiny bit of discourse attached to it, unfortunately. But I am interested in Oli Oli World because they've added a cute little Danny Trejo in the game.
They have. Yes. He's just popping up everywhere these days.
He is. But I thought that was very cute. And it's actually been scored pretty well.
Yeah, I think that the Metacritic scores and the average reviews are, 8s like or 80s and up. Yeah. Yeah, looks funky. If you want a bit of a RPG skater game, Oli Oli World could be the one for you. And some character customization. You can make your skater look as close to you or as far from you as possible if you'd like.
You can be Danny Trejo.
Maybe Danny Trejo.
Actually, I don't know if you can actually be him, but he's in the game.
Machete don't text. All right, moving on to this.
Tweet of the week.
And this tweet comes via way of one of our gaming overlords at Rockstar Games. And the tweet reads, many of you have been asking about a new entry in the Grand Theft Auto series. With every new project, our goal is always to significantly move beyond what we've previously delivered. We're pleased to confirm that active development for the next entry in the series is underway. So this tweet dropped while I was sleeping. It dropped about 8-ish hours ago on the internets. It's news that no one's surprised about, but it's good to know they've actually finally acknowledged it and confirmed it.
It actually worries me.
In what regard?
I'm pretty certain a good chunk of us were just kind of hopeful that they were already working on it in the background for maybe a good year or two now. And now that it's only, we see this tweet where we're like, we're officially saying that we're working on it. It's like, God, I hope you haven't only just started.
It feels like a more watered down confirmation than we got with the new Skate game. Remember when they did the trailer and the announcement for Skate?
Remember
this
that?
This feels like a more throwaway version of that, where they're like, it's underway. Like, that could be someone as simply as coming up with the title of the game.
Yeah, we have an email address for it. Yeah.
Like, it's exciting. This game is going to sell like no one's business. Like, it will end up being a top 5 selling game of all time, as is GTA tradition, and it's going to make Rockstar billions of dollars. But it feels like what is it? It's 2022 now. It feels like this game ain't coming out to like 2026, 2027.
Yeah, 2026 sounds about right, to be honest. If this is truly like what they're doing, like, oh yeah, we're totally now working on the game. Yeah, 2026 sounds like accurate.
But they're still making so much money from GTA Online. They're still making so much money now from the hype and hysteria from like the roleplay aspect of GTA. I can see why they're not in a big rush
they don't have to
bring
be,
out
really.
6 because they're just printing money.
Yeah. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But yeah, like I'd love to see it. Like, the GTA franchise is great. I'd love to see what the next installment is. It's been a long time, but I guess it's gonna be even longer.
Yeah. Luckily, we've got plenty of games coming out over the next weeks, months, and years to keep us well occupied as we wait for that inevitable Grand Theft Auto 6 in 2026. We're saying that now. Let's put $20 down on that. Grand Theft Auto 6 coming out in 2026. So, yeah, Miss Hart, that brings us to the end of episode 270 of THG. Anything else you wanted to shout out or highlight before we shut the studio down for another week?
Oh, I mean, we all got that news that the Suicide Squad game is now delayed, so...
That's very true. Yeah, Suicide Squad are not killing the Justice League in 2022. It's going to now be in 2023. It's sad, but I guess it's good they got ahead of it so quick. Like, it's in February and they're like, yeah, it's not coming out at all. So that's a good, hefty delay.
Add it to the list.
Yeah. Gotham Knights still on track for now, but who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah, but... yeah, Gotham Knights also in development apparently for CW. So we're going to get a Gotham Knights TV show. Annoyingly, it's going to go the lighter in tone route that we get with the CW-based DC shows. But who knows? Maybe they'll surprise us.
Maybe.
But yeah, that brings us to the end of episode 270. Thank you, listeners, for stopping on by. Thank you also for turning up in droves for episode 269. The listener count and the response that we've had. I was looking at the stats the other day. It's huge. People have been waiting very patiently for us to return back. So I appreciate you all for coming out and showing that support and love for episode 269. But we're going to be back next week with episode 271 of the Hungry Games podcast. And maybe between that, we might drop some Bitecast episodes. Maybe one of them will be with Miss Ali Hart. We've got to record that still, but throwing you on the hot seat right now.
Oh, no!
But yeah, 8-Bit Nation, thanks again for being a bunch of legends. But until next time, much love.
And stay hungry.
You've been listening to The Hungry Gamers, one of many gaming and geek culture related podcasts from the 8-Bit Collective over on 8bit.net. Check out more episodes on your podcast service of choice. And while you're there, please be sure to rate and subscribe. Until next time, boys and girls, stay hungry.
I'm so hungry. Haven't had breakfast yet. I'm going to make a smoothie after this, I think.
Ooh, fancy.